Welcome back, MMAOddsBreaker Frank Trigg, Tim Kennedy. Obviously, most of you, if you follow me anywhere on any kind of social networking, you know Tim and I became very close friends on that USO tour. I learned a whole new thing about him I didn't know. He really is a badass. He really is scary. Like a lot scarier than you think. And as a result, when he fights, he's seen live action, like real live action firefight, like for real, not stuff we read about in books, not Air Force guys talking about they're dropping bombs on somebody, like in the face, like taking serious bad guys out, real bad guys, like card deck guys. And so when he fights, it's kind of like, it's just a fight. Like I've seen worse. Like, what are you going to do to me? So as a result, he kind of beats everybody up with that kind of mentality. We rolled a couple times while I was gone. I felt like you were a wet blanket, but then when you actually throw punches, you don't have that same kind of style. You're kind of a little bit more violent. Were you just being nice to me, or was that just your grappling style is a little bit different than your MMA style?
No, my grappling style definitely is wet blanket-esque, as you described it, positionally. And when I get to those positions, I'm able to hit hard from there. So, a lot of my entries are with big punches, and then once I get there, like you and I are very similar stylistically, is we fight to be on top. And then when we're on top, we're wet blankets. And when I'm a wet blanket that tries to hit you with bricks the whole time.
And it's pretty dangerous. Like your whole style is very dangerous for somebody on the bottom. I go back and look at your record. You're 18-4. Your 4 losses. Obviously, your first fight, Scott Smith, you got cut and lost. Okay, so that was your very first fight, your very first pro fight. That was back in 2001. So we're talking about you were a child. You were like 12 years old at that point. Then you lose to Jason Miller, a decision. And that was in 2007 on Net Fights. And I was on that card too. It was kind of questionable. I thought, I think that was Ed Dewey's fight. It was very questionable. Kind of how that, I don't know. The judging hasn't gotten any better, so you can't really say much about it because the judging still sucks. It hasn't gotten any better since then.
Yeah.
So that's 2007. Then you don't lose again until 2010. And you lose to Jacare, and he finishes everybody. Like he literally finishes everybody. And there's a couple times during that fight I felt like that you were stealing a soul, and you could have taken it had you had more experience. Even though you had a long record at that point, it still just seemed like that your experience inside the cage was still kind of limited. Like they hadn't really given you tough guys for you to progress yourself up. You look back at it now. Does the Tim Kennedy of today beat the Jacare of today with a finish?
Yeah. There are 3 different times in that fight where I know I had him hurt. I dropped him with a punch. I picked him up and I slammed him. And then I didn't do anything. I didn't pull the trigger. I just I'm gonna hang back. I don't know what that was. Maybe like you said, inexperience, or maybe I was just being a pussy. But that doesn't happen anymore. Like you saw with Rafael Natal. When I hurt somebody, I go in to finish them. So. Yeah, I think the Tim Kennedy today beats the Jacare for sure.
Okay, now let's flash forward a little bit. Luke Rockhold, 2012. You lose a decision to him.
Yeah.
It's one of the last Strikeforce cards. Then you fight Trevor Smith in a Strikeforce after that, early 2013, and then that's it. It's UFC done. At 162, and you fight Hadra Gracie and beat the crap out of him. Embarrassingly beat the crap out of him. It was ridiculous how bad he just wasn't prepared for your style. You and Luke are on a trek to be in the hunt at Strikeforce all over again. So most companies get bought up by the UFC. Oh, we don't have the best fighters. The UFC's got the best fighters, this, that, and the other. But they absorb Strikeforce, and you look at Strikeforce record, look at the guys in Strikeforce that are now in the UFC and what they're doing. As a whole, they're crushing still. And at your weight class, it's absurd how many Strikeforce guys across the top. You're pretty much getting to a point where you're going to have to fight other Strikeforce guys unless they give you a title shot. Do you want to fight Rockhold again? Is it worth you fighting him again at this point?
Yeah, all 3 of us have been saying the same thing. Give us a chance at UFC Gold, or give us the top UFC guys, and then we beat them. You give me Michael Bisping, I smash him for 5 rounds. You give Jacare guys, he's 4-0 in the UFC. So now you have, the champ and Vitor Belfort. And then you have Luke, Jacare, and I that are just kind of like trying to elbow each other out of the way to get that first title shot. December is going to be very important. Vitor Belfort may or may not be able to make that fight. and you're gonna hear. I'm sure you're gonna hear the three of us be like, "Oh, I'm ready. I'll fight December." Oh, it's very convenient for me. Timeline's fantastic.
Are you gauging your training camp right now off of Vitor not being able to fight because he fails a test, or gets hurt, gets that phantom like everybody else all of a sudden? Oh, we're gonna have testing. My knee got blown out. I can't. Everybody gets hurt all of a sudden when there's a big test coming up on the board game. Are you gonna be able to pull that off and be ready to go at that point when in a short week? They might call you 2-3 weeks out. We'd be ready a short week notice to go in for a title shot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna fight the end of September. And then, I'll take 1 or 2 weeks off, and now I'm early October, and then I'm going to train October, November, and I'm going to be ready for December. I'm going to treat it as if I have a 2-month fight camp starting in October for a December fight.
Okay, and that's actually pretty smart. And I've hung out with you. We've been around each other for 2.5 weeks on the road. You're not a guy that sits around and does nothing. You're a guy that gets up every day and you got something going on. Whether you're out shooting, doing urban assault tactics, doing follow sniper shots, hand-to-hand combat, or mixed martial arts training, you're always training one way or the other. Do you, when you take that 2 weeks off, does your wife Ginger, does Ginger get frustrated because you just like, let's go do something, Ginger, let's go out, and she's like, look, I just got home from work, like back off, like give me a minute, and you're like, no, let's go, I guess because you have so much energy anyway. Does she get flipped out a little bit?
Yeah, I know, absolutely. My version of taking time off isn't doing 3 workouts a day. I'll do maybe 1 or 2 workouts a day, and then I'll go ride my motorcycle, or I'll go shoot, or maybe we'll go and go canoeing or something. But so it's just not being a maniac in the gym. It's just kind of being like obsessive compulsive in the gym.
And trying to now you take a bigger role in your gym, because I know during training camp you let all your partners, you let all the coaches, you hire great coaches, let them handle your gym so you don't have to deal with it. Do you take a bigger role when you're in between camps and you go, look, I'm going to step back in and kind of see where the money's going and what's happening and how things are being done?
Yeah, definitely. For the past 2 months, I've obviously working with my coaches and my trainers, and hiring a new one or getting rid of an old one. So that when I leave for fight camp, I'm really confident that I don't have to worry about anything and everything's going to work smoothly. And I can come back and stick my head back in and make sure everything's going well.
Have you had to fire a friend yet that was a coach?
Yeah.
Are you guys still friends?
No.
Was he stealing or doing something shady, or was the firing because he couldn't do his coaching job very well is the reason why it ended?
A little bit of all the above. It just sucks. One, when you have to fire somebody, I feel like a failure because I think I'm a good leader and I can, give people tools to be successful. So like when that person can't be successful, I think it's a fault. It's my fault. I'm the one that sucks. In the military, there's no bad soldiers. There's only bad NCOs. Well, it's kind of the same thing. There's no bad employees. There's only bad managers. So I was like, what? I'm a failure. Why can't I make this work? But sometimes, every once in a while, that person's not the right fit for the job.
And it's unfortunate because you do spend so much time. We talked like you were still working on your gym via email and via texting while we were on the road. We're in Europe and you're still working on it at wee hours in the morning. We're getting in after a long day of training and hanging out with all the soldiers. All of a sudden you get back to the hotel and I need 30 minutes because I got to email this guy or text this guy or figure out what's going on with my gym. So you do lead from the front. You're not sitting back and like, hey, I'm on vacation for 3 weeks. Give me a heads up of what's going on. You're like, no, what about this? What about this? Let's change this. Let's try this. You're very much from the front. And it does kind of wear on you when you're like, hey, look, I got to let the guy go, and he's a friend, and he sucks, and I got to fire him, and it's just how business goes. You can't let him take
sucks.
You can't let him take money out of Ginger's mouth. That's the thing too. You got to, all that money's got to come in. You got to make sure that your wife has the life she's accustomed to living.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Yoel Romero. He's your opponent coming up here at UFC 178, September 27th. First of all, it looks like that movie's a go. So I'll be in Austin probably end of August to end of September filming, which means right up until about you leave, but you take off for Jackson's, right? In the middle there, before that?
Yeah, I leave in a week.
And you're going to be there until the very end.
Yep.
So I missed you the whole time, which sucks because I was trying to get myself in shape enough to actually be effective for at least half a round when I showed up. So let's talk about Yoel. First thing first, I read a big report on him he poops his pants every time he fights. Every single time. He's got this bad gastrointestinal thing. I mean, it's horrible. That's also disgusting. And it's also a way to get diseases. Like, it's gross. Okay, I get it happens, you know, if it happens once, like it happened to Tim Sylvia once, okay, we got it, we picked on him for a long time, but so what? It happens, it's happened to the best of us. It happened in wrestling. I've got caught, you know, when I was younger too, getting squeezed, and after cutting weight hard, it happens. But he does it every single time it's happened. Is that something your trainers and your coaches and like when you're sitting there talking with Greg Jackson, like this is going to be an issue? You gotta say something. Like, I mean, is this something that you're going to try and go to the commission in front of him and go, look, this guy, it's a health hazard. It's a straight up health hazard. Like, it's one of the things that you can't go to a doctor's office and drop off your baby's diaper. So this guy doing it in the middle of a fight is ridiculous.
Yeah, you know, we talked about it, and I don't know. Like, so what is the ref? I mean, you're a ref. You're a pro ref. What is the ref supposed to do if the guy poops himself?
You're supposed to, if you see it, once there's a break in action, you have to take him over to, you know, have him look, you know, have the doc take a look at him and be like, what the hell? What's the issue? And then figure out if they got to clean him up or not. How bad is it? Because now, mind you, it's not like boxing where if it happens, it's okay. You're just going to punch him in the gut, make it worse, and punch him in the face. And you both are. He's a high caliber wrestler. You're a wrestler and a high caliber jiu-jitsu player. It's going to be on the ground. There's going to be north-south position. Yeah. There's going to be, you know, passing guard, and you're going to have to do double legs on him to pass his guard. And it's going to you're going to have to touch him. Right, so it becomes an issue now as fighter safety. I actually need to check in with Big John McCarthy. That's actually a question I want to check with Big John McCarthy with and find out what the protocol is. Like what actually happened.
Yeah, I want to know. I mean, so it's a reoccurring thing. You know, it's happened a few times. I mean, he might be batting like 500. That's crazy.
No, it's happened every single UFC fight that I've watched him fight. It happened against Starks, Marks, Brunson, and Tavares. It happened every single time. So I don't know if it's the UFC, because in Strikeforce it didn't happen. You know, with the one fight he lost to Rafael Cavatante, he lost. He got KO'd, but he didn't. It didn't happen to him. It didn't happen then. But yeah. I don't know if it's because it didn't go long enough, or he didn't get enough action in, or what the deal is. But it's a thing you got to think about. It's like Clay Guida's hair. Yeah. You have to think about his hair being in your face the whole time. And these are things you got to kind of filter around. It goes into your game planning. So obviously you've talked about it. You've discussed it. So it's part of your game plan. It's in the back of your head for your during your game planning. Is it going to adjust if you're like, oh God, and they don't stop? Let's say worst case scenario, they don't stop it. The fight keeps on going, and it's a mess. Like, do you now have to change how you attack him?
No, you know, picking him up with a high crotch. You know, like I'm gonna have fecal bacteria down my arms. Yeah, I got it. I'm still gonna pick him up with a high crotch.
I forget you're a guy that sits in a cave and eats pine trees for a living. Like, you don't really care. Like, it's what you do. So, okay. Well, how do you see this breaking down? Like, how do you see this? Because obviously you know he's going to try and take you down, and you're not going to you don't want to be on your back, so you have to fight either get on top or get back up to your feet. But it's very exhausting taking a guy down and gets back up to your feet. Are you going to try and get him exhausted early? Because you always have great shape. He's explosive and strong early, and then he fades at the end. Are you going to try to play that game where it gets to the end where you can start trying to find a way to finish him later? Or are you going to go out balls to the wall from the very beginning and try to bang them up from the very onset?
Yeah, you know, I only have 15 minutes. If it was a 25-minute fight, you know, like maybe I could hang back for a round and then start turning it up. That's, you know, I only have 15 minutes, so I can't hang back. If I lose the first round, you know, like I'm in a bad situation. You know, so I need to be the one dictating it. I don't want him to be like, okay, I'm going to be trying to take you down, and now I'm trying to defend. Maybe he scores a takedown, and I'm trying to get on top. You know, he's setting the pace for the fight. That's not what I want. You know, I want him to be scared. He doesn't like to be hit. You know, he backs out with his hands down, with his chin up, because he doesn't like to get hit. So I got to go after him. I got to move forward and not give him the range, because, you know, he's a very explosive guy, and if I give him range to do what he wants, you know, like it could be a rough night. You know, that's not going to happen. I'm going to be in his face the whole time. You know, he's going to be trying to stop my takedown. You know, he's going to be trying to not get hit with my big punches.
Are you? Have you changed up anything in your cardio system, or changed up anything for this training camp to get ready that you can talk about? Because I know a lot of stuff you like to kind of keep under wraps. Is there anything you can talk about you've changed in this training camp to kind of get you ramped up for that extra bit of go?
Yeah, you know, I know he's a really strong guy, but I've always been the stronger guy in the cage. So I've kind of taken some emphasis off of, you know, my overall strength training. I'm doing a lot more metabolic conditioning. I'm doing a lot more cardio. I'm on the bike. I'm in the pool. I want to be able to set a volume of pace that he can't keep up with.
You know what? And this is when we talk to wrestlers. Usually, that's what wrestlers do. And he's a high-level wrestler. That's always been the mentality of what we do. We just come in to go push a pace they can't keep. Their 100% is my 80%. And then once they start to fade, I accelerate to 100%, and they fall apart. And then that's when I get my finish, however it may come. This will be the first time that somebody is a super high-level caliber wrestler that, to my knowledge, that an opponent is coming at him that also has a wrestling background, but not as high level, that's going, I'm going to push the pace that he can't keep up with. And we've seen it. We've seen other guys not have that game plan and still push the pace hard enough where he starts fading, but he still gets the win. This time, you're really going to push the pace on him hard. Is it? How does practice go then for you when you walk into the room and you're getting ready to spar that day? You know, and you're with Greg Jackson's. Do you have to have particular guys? Is it because you're trying to keep such a high pace? Is it a new guy every minute? Is there a new guy every round? Is it the same guy you have for all 5 rounds? Like, how do you guys usually do
it? New guy every. Fortunately, we have some bodies there that are very similar in how they move and how they wrestle. So I have some really great partners that surprisingly, might even be better versions of Yoel. The new guy every round, definitely, last night I did 9 5-minute rounds with a new guy every round.
Oh, wow.
And I'm 2 months out right now.
How long have you been in training camp for this fight?
I started what I call pre-season or pre-fight camp conditioning 5 weeks ago.
Oh, wow. Jeez. So you're going to have a 3-month training camp? 3-month plus training camp?
Yeah, so the first 5 weeks, I don't really spar hard. I'm kind of protecting my brain. Maybe one time a week we're getting in there and sparring. All the other times are drill wrestling sessions, drilling jiu-jitsu, drilling head movement, drilling boxing, drilling kickboxing. Then with a strength and conditioning workout every day.
Wow, that's incredible. That's a nice high pace. And, of course, like I said, when we were overseas, you didn't take a day off. You worked out twice a day every day, plus everything else. You're never really out of the gym. So that's good. It's actually a refreshing taste to hear somebody that doesn't take time off other than the 2 weeks right after the fight and then right back into it. So, Tim, other than the fact that you still owe me a bunch of Ranger Up gear, or you need to get Ranger Up to send me a bunch of gear, other than that, thanks for coming on here. I appreciate you spending some time at MMAOddsBreaker. I know it's been rough trying to get our schedules to match up. I appreciate it. And do me a favor, say hi to Ginger for me.
Absolutely.
Good luck, and I'll talk to you, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks. I'm in Hawaii for a couple of weeks working, so once I get off of 5-0, I'll hit you up when I get back into the States.
All right, sounds awesome. Can't wait to see you, Frank.
Take care, bud.
Yep, take care.